Right. So we have some nice background music. Is that from you, Rabbi Butman?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. I hope you have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or whatever you like. It's a very, thank you all for joining us tonight. It's my honor and privilege to host a very special guest here. Even though it's virtually, I want to tell you that I was speaking to Rabbi Butman already a while ago about him coming to Hackensack and speaking to us. And we had grand plans. And then, you know what happened. Due to COVID-19, we had to change a little bit how his visit to Hackensack is taking place. However, the bright side of it is that because we are doing it right now online, instead of doing it in person, so it's not only the community that live in Hackensack, but we have so many people from a lot of other places around the country, around the world, and other people joining us on Facebook as well. So we have many people sitting and listening to the story. I want to tell you that last week, every year around this time of the year, we have the Kinus HaShluchim. This is the annual conference of all Chabad rabbis, international conference of all Chabad rabbis around the world. And for me, it's a great opportunity to meet with a lot of rabbis that happen to be, a lot of them, they are my classmates and very good friends. Those are people I'm very proud of, people that we have. I have Chabad rabbis that are classmates, that some are in South Korea. We had last year the rabbi from South Korea. I have in Vietnam, in Cambodia, and then one in Hackensack, New Jersey. That's me. So whenever we meet together, whenever we sit down, and it's a very special weekend. This year it happened on Zoom, obviously. I'm always in awe of my friends, of my colleagues, of my classmates that did that big move and move to these places. You know, a Chabad rabbi needs to wear a lot of hats. Chabad rabbis are, usually they come into a place, they start everything from scratch. They have to be both, a lot of times, the rabbi and the community organizer and the fundraiser, and sometimes cleaning up after the event and setting up the event as well. But when you think about moving to a place like Cambodia, and you think about the challenges that you have in being the first and only rabbi in such a place. So Rabbi Butman, together with his wife and his kids together, are doing something really, truly remarkable. They have to think about, if he wants to have kosher milk, Chalav Israel milk in his coffee, he has to plan it already 3 months in advance or so, because if he wants to have milk, he has to really think about it a long time before. It's about importing your kosher food. It's about basically taking care of all of the Jewish needs in the community from A to Z without any exception. It's about being the rabbi, being the teacher, being the Hebrew school director, literally doing everything from scratch. And I'm always in awe of Rabbi Butman and his wife, his children, for the great sacrifice and the great dedication that they have. And I'm fascinated to hear their story. And I hope you will find it fascinating as well, which is why I asked Rabbi Butman to come on board and share with us. Tell us everything. Tell us how it started. Tell us what's difficult. Tell us the good days, the difficult days. And please, Rabbi Butman, thank you very much for coming today. And I hope that we'll be able to host you very soon in person again as well. But please take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi Kamker. Good evening, Hackensack, and good evening to you all. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share our story with you and hopefully get inspired and inspire as well. I'm Jewish, as you may assume. I'll start with a question. Where do you think Rabbi Kamker is talking about hardships and sacrifice that take place as a Jew or as a Chabad rabbi in Phnom Penh in Cambodia? Where do you think it is harder to be Jewish? in Phnom Penh or in Hackensack? To me, the answer isn't so simple. I've seen people coming here from Hackensack or from California or from Jerusalem even, and open up the Yiddishkeit and the Chabad and to services and the Shabbat meal in ways they have not been before. I've seen people going back from here to their hometown and continuing things they've done here first time after decades of not doing. Why? Let's dive into it. I'll start our story from the very beginning, which I don't usually do, or almost very beginning, simply because it connects very strongly to the Torah portion. We were sitting on the plane just this week, 11 years ago. I know in US you travel by the hours, like your flight leaves at 4 p.m. and arrives at 7 p.m. or so. Here we travel by the calendar. We left New York on Sunday evening, and we arrive in Cambodia on Tuesday afternoon, concerning a 24-hour flight plus 12-hour time zone difference. So we were sitting Sunday night. As you can imagine, it was a very busy Sunday. There was a lot to pack, and the airport, and it's a one-way trip, and it's a goodbye to everyone. And finally, on the first flight, leaving from New York to Taipei, Taiwan, I sat with my wife to do the daily Torah study that we do together every day. That is a daily Chumash. First day of Parashat Vayetzeh. I'll read this to you. I think the words speaks for themselves. Yaakov goes out of Beersheba. Beersheba is not only his hometown, but Beersheba is his spiritual base, because that's the town of his father. And he goes to Haran. Haran isn't only a remote place, but Haran, the Talmud says, represents evil, anger. The anger place of God is Haran, Haron af shel makom. So he leaves his hometown and he goes to a very far place spiritually. At night, he falls asleep, which our fathers, sages tell us it's in the place of Beit HaMikdash. Then he has a dream. And he sees a long ladder, he sees angels going up and down, and Hashem himself reveals himself to him and says, I'm God. I'm the Lord of your father Abraham and the Lord of your father Yitzchak. The land which you're sleeping on, is going to be given to you. Your children will multiply like the sand of the earth, and you will break through west and east, north and west. All other nations will be blessed by you. You'll be a role model for blessing. Listen to me. I will be with you. I will guard you everywhere you go. I will return you here, because I'm not going to drop you until I'll fulfill what I've spoken to you about. And then Yaakov wakes up, excited, and he says, wow, I didn't know God is in this place. I wouldn't have fallen asleep here. And then he makes a deal. He builds an altar, and he makes an oath. And he says, if God will be with me, he's basically repeating the promises that Hashem told him in the dream, and he's conditioning himself to commit. If God will be with me, if he'll guard me in the path that I'm going, if he'll provide for me bread and clothes, and I'll return peacefully to my hometown, my father, Hashem will be my God. Then the altar that I just built, I'll make it into a Bet Elokim. I'll bring sacrifices here again, and whatever I have, I'll give 10% to God. Imagine a young couple. I was born and raised in Israel. Mashi, my wife, was born and raised in Chicago. We lived in New York at the time. 26. I was 26 at the time, and my wife was 24. We have 2 children, one of almost 2 years, one of 3 months. We're going on a one-way ticket. The place we've been to once together for a week, around the Pesach Seder a few months earlier. And once I came myself for a few more days to arrange a few things. 2 years, 2 months, 2 years, 2 months. 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 2 We did have someone waiting for us at the airport, and there were a few people that were aware of our coming, but not much beyond it. But the first Friday night, we were eating challah with peanut butter and jelly, with jarred gefilte fish. Miraculously, already at a place that became our Chabad house, which is a story of its own. How we found our beautiful and fitting home so soon after arrival. For the next Shabbos, we already had 2 guests. The community wasn't there to ask to come because they realized we're not yet settled. But travelers who came and heard in Thailand or in Vietnam that Chabad is opening, they found us and joined our Shabbos table. For the next Friday night, we had 6. And by the next Friday night, when we felt that we were able to host everyone and we let an announcement for the community, we had 26. From then, numbers only grew. In the height of pre-corona, we were hosting 100 Jews every Friday night. And if Rabbi Kamenker is speaking about wearing lots of hats, there are many hats I wear he never did. But there are some he does, like he mentioned, carrying boxes or setting up tables and stuff, that I never do. As I mentioned, pre-corona, we had 7 staff in the kitchen. And if it's talking about cleaning, cooking, of course, or moving things, there's a lot of manpower here, and it's a great plus when you run a large operation that this is off my head and done by others. How do we get here? So when people ask me this question, my first answer is always by a plane. But the story takes us back to a visit to the Ohel, which my wife and I made together. It didn't usually happen. I made a point to be at the Ohel at least once a month when we lived in New York. I'm not sure what was the cause for her to join, because she's working. She was working, so usually she wouldn't come with me. But maybe it was a Sunday or something. We went together, and this was soon after we were informed or found out that we're expecting second child. So of course, writing to the Rebbe, we mentioned. We wrote separately. I went to my corner, she went to hers, and I was writing the Baruch Hashem. Mash is conceived, and I wasn't asking for a bracha yet, because they say in the very early stages not supposed to. But I just informed the Rebbe that something is in the process, and then naturally, not that I didn't mention it in other times, but with this in mind, I said, the train is moving, the cars are added, and a large family will have a harder time relocating and building our dream Chabad house. I'm asking for a bracha that it should happen soon before it becomes harder to happen. In the car on the way back, I shared with my wife. I said, Mashi, this is how I wrote my request. I mentioned first pregnancy, and then I said, if pregnancy, then we're looking for a place. It's time to find it. She says that it happened to me the same way. I wrote about pregnancy, and I said, the family is growing. As she's speaking, the phone rings. Sorry, her aunt, a great aunt, Rabbi Bentzion Klein, wife of Rabbi Binyamin Klein, the Rebbe's secretary, called. This was and asked her where we are for Shabbos. We didn't have plans. Unluckily, unlike many other couples in Crown Heights, at least one of the parents is from Crown Heights, so they have another home aside for their own. We didn't, and Mrs. Rabbi Bentzion Klein was sensitive enough to invite us to her house sometimes for Shabbos, so we did. So we're sitting on the Shabbos table by her and a lady, which I have to find her name, a big activist. She made a documentary about agunot, people who are unable to get remarried because their husbands refused the divorce.
And Mali Resnick.
Oh, hi, Shver.
Hi.
Mali was the host. Mali brought over.
Okay.
Mali Resnick brought over a guest who was a great activist, and she was getting married the next Sunday for the head of federation in New York. Second marriage, of course. We were sitting in the Shabbos table, and this lady was, to be, from my perspective at least, was very cold in the beginning. Chabad seemed to her to, perhaps too extreme, but over the meal, with the asking different questions, things melted. She became more friendly, and then at some point she's like, you know what? I've been to so many places, and there's always a Chabad. It's so nice to see you all over. There is only one place in the world that I've been to that has no Chabad. And my antenna goes right up, and I look at my wife. She looks at me, and I said, somewhat politely, because I was very curious, where is that? And she says, that's in Bali. So after Shabbos, we Googled to see what's going on. I contacted Rabbi Cantor, who's Chabad in Thailand. I said to him, I see Bali is close to you. Do you have any idea? Is there potential for Chabad house? Did the roving rabbis ever end up there? Is there any reports? So he says to me, no, Bali isn't my territory. It belongs to Chabad in Singapore. Talk to Rabbi Bentzion. But if you're looking in that direction, if this doesn't work out, call me. I may have something for you. So, well, for whatever reason, Bali wasn't available. It wasn't an option at the time. I called up Rabbi Cantor. I said, you said you may have something available. He said, yeah, I'm coming for the keynote for the conference. This was 12 years ago. I'm coming for the conference in 2 weeks. Let's meet then. I came to that meeting already with my CV, with Mashi's CV, with answers prepared to potential questions. He sat with me. He looked at me. He says, Benche, are you crazy? I said, not for the record, maybe, but why that? He says, you want to go to the Far East? I said, what about you? He says, me? My wife was already 9 months pregnant when we were offered this. In other words, I kind of didn't have a choice because we were so deep into the marriage. And I said, well, my baby is almost 1 year old. And I didn't tell him. We're in early stages of second round. He looked at me and says, okay, I hear. We'll be in touch. I'm like, what? He says, yeah, we'll be in touch. I may have something. I'll keep you posted. I walked off somewhat disappointed. You made a meeting. We were supposed to sit. 2 weeks before Pesach, I get a call from him. He says, I'm looking for someone to go to Cambodia. I had a million questions. The only question I didn't ask is, where is Cambodia? Simply because I assumed Cambodia is somewhere around him, but I never heard the name before. And I started asking how many Jews are there, and who was there, and what to do there, and so on. And he said, look, Pesach is in 2 weeks. I need someone anyway to go run their Pesach, because Pesach has been conducted there in the past 2 years. Why don't you go with your wife, run the Pesach Seder, and by the end of that trip, you'll have more answers than I do it by now. Okay, I came home. This phone call I received when I was in the kollel, sitting and studying, learning Torah. I came home, and I told Mashi, we got an offer to go to Cambodia. He says, you mean Colombia? I said, no, it's not Colombia. It has to be somewhere near Thailand. He's like, Cambodia. I'm like, okay, Cambodia. So, and then I said, we're invited to come for Pesach to run the Seder. And she says, you remember we have tickets to Chicago. My brother's bar mitzvah is a few days before Pesach. I said, yes, I do remember. I was thinking to offer it to you anyways. It's who knows when is the next chance, and if someone else will take over for Pesach, maybe he'll take over forever. She also debated with herself, but she felt this is not her own decision. She can't cancel on her. She's the oldest sister, and to cancel on her brother's bar mitzvah is not something fair. So I said, you know what? Why don't you call Mordechai, your brother, and see with him what he says. Here is an answer coming from my brother-in-law, who's not yet bar mitzvah, is nearly 13. It's 2 weeks before Pesach. She called him up. She said, we were planning on coming. There are tickets, but here is what came up. She lays down the story, lays out the story, and Mordechai said immediately, without thinking too much, he says to her, "You know what, Mashi? The best bar mitzvah present I can possibly get is to know that you're going to spend Pesach in a place that otherwise will not have a Seder." Okay, that was a good answer for us. But the reason why I always go back to this story when they ask me how it began, because truly it didn't begin when we went to Pesach. It didn't begin when I was willing to check out in the Nijabali. And it didn't begin when we first met and the topic of shlichut, of going on as a Chabad rabbi somewhere in the world, came up in the very first day. It began when, as a 13-year-old or not yet 13-year-old boy, a Chabad boy is asked, "You want your sister to come to your bar mitzvah, or you rather she go spend Pesach in a place that otherwise doesn't have a Seder?" And without a blink, he says, "Spending Pesach with other people." So when you answer this question like this, when you're 13, then when you become 21 or 23 or 25, and these questions come up, your mindset is already built for the right answer. So yeah, Mordechai said we can, and so we changed plans, booked new tickets. Days before Pesach, we actually came to Bangkok for Shabbos, which was a great soft landing. We were also able to take from there some needs for the Pesach. It was very challenging coming to a country, comparing Cambodia of 12 years ago to now. There's absolutely no comparison. There was nothing. Very hard to describe. We wanted rolling pins for the model matzah bakery. No rolling pins in the entire city. But someone said, "What's the big deal? You have carpenters all around. Go over and ask them to make rolling pins." Everything was very, very primitive. And now the city is totally different. And then going around, purchasing an oven, vegetables, fish, getting labor. It was quite an experience. And then for the first night of the Seder, we were sitting together, no less than 70 Jews, 70 people that came, either word of mouth or at least the database list that we had from the previous 2 years in which Chabad roving rabbis came here to run Seder, and from advertisement in the local paper. Of course, the local paper's owner is Jewish, and he agreed to put a free ad in his paper. I wanted to mention his name, but it flew out of my mind because he passed away a few years ago, 3 years ago, but Bernie, maybe I'll come up with it soon. Seder was with 70 people. And when we reached the point of taking out a fikoman, I could not find my fikoman. And I know it is not in Chabad. In Chabad, we refrain from doing it, from training the kids to steal, even though it's a game, it's a fake stealing, but it's still, we say, it has a taste that may be addictive. But in other communities, they steal a fikoman, and my fikoman got stolen, and I'm thinking to myself, who took it? And I announced, I said, "I don't know where my fikoman is. Have anyone seen it?" And a group of people at the end of the table are all laughing. They said, "Yes, we got it." I said, "Give it back to me." They said, "No, we need a price. We don't give up the fikoman for free. We're asking for a price. We took it for a reason." I said, "What price? You want me to buy you an iPhone?" They said, No. We took the fikoman. We will return the fikoman on a condition that you'll promise us a permanent Chabad center in Phnom Penh. And this was quite shocking. We weren't ready. We weren't ready to take, we came to check, to see. I was very touched, very moved. The mission was very appealing. And I'll explain in a second why. But to announce it like this, in such an early stage, it was kind of not fair to myself, to my wife, to anything. I remember also before leaving, Mashi was telling me, I know you're very quick to make big decisions. I need more time. I'm letting you know now. I'm not giving you an answer, not to yes and not to no, until Pesach Sheni, which is 30 days later. I need a month to sit over it, and after a month, I'll tell you where I'm holding. Please do not ask me earlier, what do I think? Let me process my thoughts. So when they said this, I was afraid to even look at her, because she told me not to, I have to give her the month. So I said to them, okay, I hear your request, and as soon as the holiday's over, I'm going to contact Rabbi Kotlarski, and I'm going to follow up with him and deliver it in written and so on. And somehow I made up some kind of an answer. We got the Fikuman, and the Seder continued. A few days later, upon leaving Cambodia, we're standing in the not so big but still airport terminal near gate 4. I still remember that very corner where we were standing. And our flight was departing to Bangkok. And as we're boarding, I see someone running from the other side of the airport. Not that the other side meant very big, but still, I mean, about 100 meters away. His flight is boarding to Japan, one of the 18 international flights that they had at the time. And he runs over and he pulls out his business card and he gives it to me like they do here with 2 hands. And so I take it from him with 2 hands. He's still holding to it. I'm holding to it. I remember this. Here it's very normal, like 4 hands in such a close spot. But for me, it was a bit weird. I remember till today. And he says, Rabbi, do me a favor. When you come back to New York, call me up. And the urgency in his words made me feel that something's wrong, something's urgent. I'm like, Adam, is there anything I can help with right now? He says, no, I just want to follow up with you on the promise. I was at the Seder, it was amazing, and I want to know, like, he wasn't even part of that group. He wasn't coming as a responsibility. He was just curious because, he was excited for the thought that this may happen. And then I asked him if his cell is on it. So he said, yeah. I gave you my personal business card. Here is my cell. Call me on my cell, and let's be in touch. And then he ran because he was last on his flight. And I remember he left, and I'm standing there holding the card still with 2 hands. I turned to Masha. I said, look, we'll go to, I mentioned 2 places, which are 2 places that we have checked before. This was Peachtree City in Georgia, near Atlanta, and Redwood City in California. 2 places that we looked into previously that fell through. And I said, we'll go there and we'll look for Jews, and Jewish people will be running away from us. I'll see someone with a Jewish sounding name. He'll say he's not Jewish. Later on will try to reach him in his office, and he's going to make sure the secretary gives me the whatever pushes me off. I'll then bump into him buying herring in the supermarket. I can't deny you're Jewish anymore. And he's going to have no choice and talk to me for a few words, talk to me a few minutes. But then when he's going to pull out the business card, he's going to make sure it's the office business card and his cell phone is not on it. And here you have people that are running, and this is something that appealed to me then and appeals to me until today. The thirst of Jews to their true identity, their awareness of what they need to do, the interest they have in participating, in attending, their respect, even the respect they have for what we're here for. I'm almost never viewed as a nudnik. I know Rabbi Kamenker is very jealous now, but I'm almost never viewed as a nudnik. There are maybe at this point 2 people in town that are not interested in going out with me for coffee. Which takes me back to the first question, which rhetorically I maybe should return to it later, but let me get back to this now. Where is it harder to be Jewish? In Hackensack or in Phnom Penh? I think in Hackensack. I think Rabbi Kamenker's job is harder, breaking through to people's hearts, taking space in people's schedule. And it's not only his task, but also Jewish people's task. It's less, you're less yearning. You're more in your natural home. and lessen the need for spiritual guidance or spiritual nurturing. When you're in a place like Phnom Penh, it becomes more obvious that you need it. It becomes more, you become closer to other people around you coming from the same background. And as a result, as I mentioned, I have a Jew here from Brooklyn. He was actually, when we were talking, as Rabbi Kamenker mentioned, we were talking about me coming personally, which was actually last year around this time. The plan was that I would join with Mr. Karapkin. Mr. Karapkin is a sweet Jew, if he allows me to say so. Now he's over 70, but he's been serving as a judge in Brooklyn for many years. He has come here a few years ago to be part of the international court that was taking care of the war crime that took place in the war here, 1975 through 1979. The court is now in dying stages. He's not anymore working for them, but he's still here. Martin, if I may say so, has not stepped into a shul, for sure Orthodox shul, for decades. And I'm talking about someone living in Brooklyn. There's more to it. I don't know how much he lets me say. He is right now he's in Kampot in another town. Due to COVID, he rather not be in the big city, but he would come every single Friday night, every single Shabbos day. He purchased his own pair of tefillin. This was absolutely not. He asked him 7 years ago if that would ever happen. He would tell you absolutely no. I can tell you that it took me time to even get him to put on tefillin once, and it wasn't easy. And Baruch Hashem, over the time, and yes, absolutely, over the fact that we are here in Phnom Penh, that we're here in a far place, it enabled him to reflect on who he really is and what the true meaning of life is, and become closer to and get closer to Hashem. I'm not saying this to make one feel bad. I don't think anyone is convinced to now move to Phnom Penh. If I can't care if this starts happening, let me know. But my point is, we have to be more aware. We have to pay more attention. Sometimes, I mean, now with the virus, a lot of us are hit by not being so immersed with what daily schedule predict for us, rather predict our own schedule. And we have to give that time to our true identity and nurse our soul. Just like our body has to be nursed, and it has to be nursed consistently and continuously, so does our soul. And anyone who takes himself, who places himself on such path, feels the change right away. I'll take a few more minutes to answer a few questions that may bother you about how we manage here. And then perhaps if we have time, I can give you a few minutes tour of my of our Chabad house, which is another plus of having it by Zoom. Rabbi Kamenker mentioned kosher food. Here, you see? Bingo. Rabbi Kamenker mentioned kosher food, and let's start with the basics. We learned by coming here that all kind of snacks and packaged food is not the most important, not most needed, and easily managed without. So most of our food, consumed food, is food we purchase raw food and make it here. So talking about fruits and vegetables, if I don't get back to the million question, remind me, because I have something nice to say about this. Fruits and vegetables, rice, which is the main food here. They eat rice for every meal. They even say the word meal in the local language in Khmer is rice. Like someone will tell you, I'm going to say I'm going to eat a meal. They say I'm going to eat rice. And then kosher fish are in the local market. Flour, sugar, salt, and so on. All can be purchased locally without any issue. That makes sure that we don't starve. Chicken and beef we get from Thailand. And Then once a year, we make a shipment from Israel of shell food. Anything that falls into the category of shell food, Israeli snacks. I should start with matzahs, Pesach, and then wine, tuna cans, gefilte fish jars, pickles, olives, and all this stuff. Lots of Israeli snacks that Israelis appreciate here, Israeli coffee, and so on. The hardest challenge is dairy products. So every time going to New York, going to Israel, having guests coming, travel, business people that come here regularly, they would always bring with them dairy. This is the block of cheese. This is cream cheese, cottage cheese sometimes, or whatever. Milk we actually have here is a local farm, Israeli owned, that allows me to come and inspect them and watch the process. So we have local milk, very healthy, very tasty. We even make butter easily from that milk. So that actual milk is here unlimited. We can have as much as we need. And yeah, in the past 8 months, with having almost no traffic, it became harder. Hashem had mercy on me, and when Kinus HaShluchim, this conference was getting close, and I was yearning to see faces of family and friends, which I've not had a chance to in 8 months. It's, I must say, not easy. Not going to say the word hard, but not easy. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, came here a Hamish Yid, Hasidic Jew from Belgium, and he was here now for business. They had urgent matter to take care of, that it was worth all the hard process of coming in, which is possible but not easy. And he brought with him a suitcase full of 23 kilo of dairy goods that we haven't had in a while. He have also been company for me for a little over a week. He's leaving today. It was definitely the right person at the right time in the right place. You asked about the minyan. When we first came, a minyan was hard. Then Friday night was a guest once in a while. 10 weeks after arrival here, we left to the US. Mashi's grandparents were celebrating their 80th birthday, and all the grandchildren came from all over. And we joined, of course, from here. I put on my goals for that trip to come back with a Sefer Torah, which was Baruch Hashem successful. Moshe Rubashkin, Rabbi Rubashkin from Mr. Moshe Rubashkin from Crown Heights, has very generously given me a Sefer Torah of his, which is here until today, even though by now we have one more Torah which was donated to us by 2012, and we made a celebration over here, and one more Torah which was written by Mashi's family in memory of my dear brother-in-law, Eliyahu Maskowitz, Eliyahu ben Menach Mendel. Family suffered through a great tragedy with his murder 2 years ago in Simchat Torah, Chicago-style murder. No evidence for anything, just passing through, and someone shot him dead on the spot. Nobody knows what happened. Our family wrote a Sefer Torah. Celebration took place in Chicago a little over a year ago for completion. The deal was that I was going to come at some point and pick up the Torah. I was scheduled to come in February and cancel the trip 2 days before takeoff, just because we realized that the borders are somewhat closing. So that Torah is now in 770 in Chabad headquarters, waiting for me to pick it up. That's our third Torah. So Rabbi Rubashkin's Torah came here in that trip that we went to New York. And I remember coming back here very excited with the Torah and saying to myself, I'm not going to reveal the secret to the community, because a few weeks from now is Shabbat Zachor. And Shabbat Zachor is mandatory by Torah to hear the Torah reading. So I said, I'm going to keep it secret, and I'll reveal it just before Shabbat Zachor, so we can have a minyan for the special Shabbat of Shabbat Zachor. Lo and behold, on Friday morning, 4 Israeli backpackers roll in. How are you? Regular stuff. Where are you from? What's going on? Look, they're with us for Shabbos. And then they said, we actually filmed, will you have a minyan Shabbos morning? I said, well, if the 4 of you are coming, of course I'll have a minyan. 6, I mean, you're 4, I'm 5th. I arrange 5 more people. We usually have 5, 6 people anyway Shabbos morning, even without a minyan people gathered. So for the very first, I guess the Torah sensed its own respect. And for the very first Shabbat that we had a Torah in Cambodia, we also had a minyan. I remember very clearly, back then we didn't even have an Aron Kodesh yet. So I kept the Torah on the table, wrapped it with talit as required, in second floor where my office was. And so after Shachrit, I went upstairs to get the Torah down to shul. And the villa we were at then was a beautiful villa and a large, wide, stunning, round wooden staircase was leading from second floor from first floor to ground floor. And I was going down those stairs holding the Torah. And one of the people in the community, a story of its own, got so emotional and he started singing Sisu v'Simchu, the song of Simchat Torah, and everyone joined, and I was going down the stairs. I later on heard from another person, he says, Rabbi, you should know that moment that you were going down with the Torah it was a dream. It was a dream. We just opened. We didn't think it's happening. All of a sudden, we have a Torah and we have a minyan. We're about to read in the Torah. He says, you have to understand, to me, you looked like Moshe Rabbeinu was coming on Mount Sinai. This was so, and you know what? I didn't think he was exaggerating. It was so great. So this was almost 11 years ago. And ever since, of course, minyan is always a battle. But over time, it becomes stronger and stronger. So Friday night is obvious without a question. But then Shabbos became, every second Shabbos, not consistently, but more or less, like 50% and then 60%. 2 years ago, we missed only one Shabbos. It was Shabbos before Hanukkah. And we had a big event on Sunday. Perhaps some people thought they're coming Sunday. There's no that they felt they took the leisure of not coming Shabbos. And all of a sudden, we found ourselves Shabbos morning unexpectedly. I didn't sense it's going to be a sensitive Shabbos. No minyan. And the good news, however, is that this was the last Shabbos we did not have a minyan. We went from this Shabbos before Hanukkah 2 years ago, entering 5780 without a failure. And then all throughout the pandemic, we're having a minyan. I can mention Cambodia isn't suffering from the virus very crazily within borders. Borders are somewhat closed. If they obtain visa in advance and deposit $2,000 and risk yourself for governmental quarantine in case someone was found positive on the flight, there's almost no traffic. But within Cambodia, from beginning of the pandemic until today, there are about 300 cases, out of which most are people upon arrival. There has been actually a crazy story 3 weeks ago with diplomat that came here and they felt that Hungary was opening an embassy here. They felt they shouldn't be checking these people. And there was a big event and Prime Minister was attending and the man came in touch with about 1,000 people. And the next day he went to Thailand. He was found positive and everyone got nervous here and school was shut for 2 weeks and so on. But that incident is behind us and so far it looks like it's under control. So within Cambodia, there's almost no limitations. Schools are open, people are okay. There has been times when they were more scared. There was even a time that they announced that religious gatherings are forbidden because our cousins, the Muslims, were making trouble. They had a gathering in Malaysia. People, their leaders were coming back. They're only 3% of the population here, but perhaps some people came back from that gathering. About 35 cases within the 1 month that we had 100 out of the 300 cases that are now were from that gathering. So Prime Minister wasn't too excited about this and he announced no religious gatherings. I immediately contacted my people at the Ministry of Religion, which is a story of its own. When I first came here and I wanted to register, the Jewish lawyer, of course, there's 4 Jewish. How many Jews are here? Someone asked. There was at least pre-corona about 150 Jews. Now it's more like 80 regulars. They do here what they do in Hackensack. Some are lawyers. Some are business people, and some are looking for what to do. Some are looking for what not to do. But just like in every other place. So one of the 4 Jewish lawyers here in town was helping me with all kind of legal issues. I said I want to open officially here. He says, no, you don't need to, because you can obtain business visa without a business. I said, yes, but I'd rather be proper and legal and all. He says, okay, you can open a restaurant, easy. I said, no, I want to be legal as a Chabad. I want the government to recognize what we do. He says, nah, not going to work. I said, please. He said, no, I can't help you with it. I want to do it alone. I came to Ministry of Religion, and I was brought from the secretary to her boss, to his boss, to his boss. I'm sitting with the big guy over there. And he says, how can I help you? I said, we're here, we're Jewish, we're opening a center, we have a center, we need a license. This is no, we don't accept new religions. I said, well, I've seen churches and mosques out in the city. Are they not certified? He says, well, some of them are certified, but the Christianity and Islam are very old religions. They're almost 2,000 years. You guys are new. So this is the head of the office. Anyways, to make a very long story short, we were trying here and there, and he asked for our fundamental book. So I told him in the Bible, the Tanakh, it says it's translated to Khmer. Okay, I translated this book to Khmer. Are you going to read it? Anyway, after years of dealing with them, I met with the king in a totally separate story. Not sure how, but 2 weeks after I met with the king, I got a call from him to come pick up the certificate. So we are certified by Ministry of Cult and Religion. And I have some, actually later on, I found a contact that holds very highly of Jews. And so I called him, I said to him, you know what happened? Now they said, Corona, we can't do gatherings. He says, no, that's very dangerous for us. He says, if you guys aren't gathering, who is going to protect this country? Anyway, he ran to the office, he made a few phone calls. And he says to me, he called me back maybe 3 hours later. He said, Rabbi, I spoke to the right people. I showed them photos of your place. He knows he's been here before. And they said, in your place, see, the place is large. And they know you don't have mass gatherings because you only cater to your people. You're not trying to get local people converted. They said, in your place, up to 30 people, you can host, no problem. So all throughout the year, Shabbos in, Shabbos out, Yom Tov, all throughout the year we had a minyan, which was, I was telling my people, Chabad headquarters was closed. I think that I'm not even sure the Kotel had a minyan every time. Shuls that are open for hundreds of years, shuls that host thousands of people in Shabbos, were forced closed throughout pandemic. Here or there, depends on what. Again, Baruch Hashem, we're a shul. I don't know how many shuls throughout the world have managed to remain open and keep a minyan every single Shabbos for 5/7/80. Our Simchat Torah was very special because it was a real Simchat Torah for us. It was the first, and we're continuing now with the same excitement. Hopefully, we're able to achieve another year round like this. I'm afraid we're going over time. Mendy, you'll tell me, right, Kamker?
I enjoy it tremendously, but you definitely are welcome to take us for a little tour.
Yeah, let's do the tour. I want to remember about the questions they asked. I hope I don't have any.
Someone asked a question about the language. How do you manage with the language?
Right. So the second question is the language. So
this is a brach. This is a real brach. The language is very hard, and I learned it a bit to manage around, and I'm learning it now more because I'm working now on becoming a citizen here. That's the only way for me to obtain land, to be an owner of a land. And it's important because we purchased the cemetery here, which is a story of its own. And we have the Chabad house here, a 6-story building, which is also a story of its own. I should have, can you give it to me? Here's a model of our building. Let me start with this, then we'll go through a few floors physically. So here is our building. This is basically a 6-story building. Entry on ground floor from here. We have a restaurant and industrial kitchen. From the back, there's a separate entrance, one for the kitchen. One for the kitchen and one for the ladies' mikvah. Someone asked about the ladies' mikvah. A mikvah I can talk about a half hour of itself because upon coming here, there obviously was no mikvah. The closest mikvah was in Thailand, and there was no flights back same evening. So every time mikvah meant an overstay for a night over in Thailand. Then later on, flights were added. It still meant that mikveh is leaving home at 1 p.m., taking a flight, going to mikveh, taking a flight back, showing up back home at midnight. It wasn't easy. Sorry. And once when I called my wife from New York to inform her that thanks to her dedication, there's a lady, a long story, there's a lady that decided to start keeping mikveh because she lives in Singapore and she says the mikveh is around the corner. And I say no to mikveh. How can I say no to mikveh when this lady is doing that? I called her with excitement about this, and she says maybe that's why I had to go through so much. Now that this is achieved, time to have our own mikveh. And with that story, later that night, someone gave me $30,000 for the mikveh, and later on, this building became a reality through those seed money that was originally collected for mikveh. So after ground floor, we have the first floor, this is where I'm sitting at. I'm sitting at the back, which is also my office. In front is a beautiful shul you're going to see in a second. We have a social hall where we sit and eat. Friday night, Shabbos day, not these days. Now we're eating downstairs in the restaurant because this is a much smaller crowd. And we try to make sure expenses aren't high because without traffic, it's not so easy here now. Then my home. Me and President of the United States both live over the office. Makes it very easy and convenient. I'm in the office sometimes in very crazy hours. I did not at all touch the humanitarian front, but let me tell you, as a only Jewish entity in the 220,000 square kilometers of Cambodia, I found myself on planes without preparation, going to Israel, going to Singapore, going to Bangkok, and medical evacuation, helicopter evacuation, searching travelers, lots of crazy stories. Because as Rabbi Kamenker said, Chabad rabbi makes you wear many hats. I mentioned the cemetery, and there's a lot of things that require me being available 24/7. So having home near office definitely makes it easier. Then we have guest units, which are not yet in use because we haven't completed that floor. We have the preschool, which serves the community and my children. Online school is on the same floor. Our children study through the online school system. If you heard Rabbi Litzman from Korea or others, you may be exposed to this. No time, sorry to elaborate on this. And then storages and beautiful rooftop, which was a home for a host for a very exciting wedding a few years ago. A girl from our community married someone from the Banker community. It was really nice. Let's see what we can show you. Turn around the camera. Okay, I'll start. Here is my two children, Zalman, Molek. We sit here every morning from 7 a.m. till 10:30. I learn with them. We daven together. I learn with others. They learn on themselves and alone. And today they allowed me to have a window of, I told them 30 minutes, but I guess an hour of having the chance, giving you the chance to hear about us. So here is shul. Shul actually has two sizes. This is the smaller version. Hi, Ali. This is my friend from Belgium who came to make these 2 weeks easier. Here is our Rav Kodesh, beautifully made.
The rabbi says, I confirm that it's much more than what he said. It's much more important, positive, heartwarming, especially in these times when I was supposed to be lost in our tent self, and I got out of self-isolation because of the test negative movement here. The time to have pray, learn, eat, see Jewish souls, be together with other Jewish souls.
Thank you. Yeah, I must say, I felt like Avraham Avinu, who was very sad when there was no guest, and all of a sudden Hashem gave me the opportunity to host someone that not only is enjoying my meal, but we're also hosting him in the building, and he takes advantage of the mikveh. We have men's mikveh on the 5th floor, so usually I'm the only user. Now I have another user daily, which makes me feel better. Here we have our mechitza is a one-way see-through. I'll show you. Let's see. You probably can see from here to the ladies section. You can't really tell, but when you look from this side, it's very clear to see the shul. The ladies can feel inside the shul. Okay, and then when it comes Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur or bar mitzvahs and stuff, these libraries can be moved and shul becomes larger. This is where I sat before with my kids. Let's go downstairs. I'll show you through. Here is our elevator. Show you through restaurant. We have the ladies' mikvah, industrial kitchen. Let's see what we can see. Mandy, let me know how much I can stretch it.
If it will be up to me, I will stay here all night, so I'm not sure exactly.
Okay.
I enjoy it.
Here is a restaurant.
You for so, we know each other for such a long time, but I never heard almost any of the stories that you share, and I was never near a Chabad house, so now I am.
Okay. Kitchen is a bit of a mess, but as long, yeah, we have looked at this. Producing 300 challah bread on Friday. We have this large mixer. We have this large tray holder and an 8 tray oven. This can do about 300 rolls on a regular Friday. And if it's busier, it can get even more. I'm not sure social hall is now. Let me, 1 second. I'm gonna go to the elevator. I'm gonna get disconnected. I'm gonna go by feet because I'm gonna get disconnected otherwise. Here we have just in the entry, we have a store of Judaica, Tefillin, mezuzot, and sidurim. Let me show you our beautiful entry. This is the entrance to Chabad. In case you come, this is going to be closed soon. We're working on it now. But in case you come, you know where to look for it here. We're in a small aisle. It'll give you a little peek of how Cambodia looks like. I think it's a little different than Hackensack. If we have a few minutes, I'm going to reach the roof. And I'll be able to show you a little more of the city. Let's see. So
Yeah.
going back to shul.
Butman, as you walk around, someone was asking a question about how do you manage financially, and I would use the opportunity to encourage everyone on this call, if you can go to Rabbi Butman's website. I'm assuming there's probably a donation option. I'm sure we'd appreciate some warm gifts that are coming all the way from New Jersey to you. So, but if you can talk about how do you manage financially, because it's definitely not simple. So maybe talk about it a little bit.
Okay. 1 second. Here we are at Social Hall. Also with 2 sizes for, doesn't look so hospitable now, but some for a regular Friday night. And then when it's larger crowd, you can open the curtain in the back and host more. Let me turn on the camera for a second. Turn off, I mean. Sorry. I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to go through the elevator because if I reach up to the roof with my feet, you won't be able to hear me for sure. Regarding finances, it's a good question. I did mention, however, that people are appreciative to what we do. And when appreciation is noticeable,
Okay, so I think we lost his connection for a second. It's probably going to connect again. That's what I'm guessing, because he said.
So this is Rabbi Butman's father-in-law, Mendel Moskowitz. I just want to say, as far as the language, I don't know if he totally answered the question, but the children in the family are multilingual. They speak Hebrew fluently, Yiddish fluently, English pretty good, and they also have learned the language of the local language called Khmer from talking to the house help, etc. So that's the local language that they learn.
Wow, that's beautiful. Rabbi Butman,
Okay.
we can hear you now.
Okay, so I'm on the roof now. This is 30-meter high. What you see here is the heart of the city. This is basically two sides of the two rivers that are combining right here, which is the reason why the city was built on this point, combining four rivers. This is the first two connections. Google it because I'm not going to spend my time explaining about this Tonle Sap, but it's a mysterious river. Not so mysterious, it's explainable, but it changes direction once a year, like a few months a year. It runs the other direction. There's a water festival around it. Here you see the very tall roof. Right by us is Supreme Court, and then just after the road is the Royal Palace. I'm a neighbor of the king. I've met him twice, and in one of those two times, he mentioned to me that he's very excited. He's very thankful that we're here because he knows that a Jewish center enables Jews to come, and he knows that when Jews come to a city, the country, it brings blessing to that country. Very much in the heart of town, surrounded by, I say, roughly 25 hotels from $6 a night to $300 a night, and 300 is a real 5-star. All enabling all kind of travelers to spend Shabbos with us. Now, if you look just down from us, you see that in our alleyway, the houses are very small and poor. That's what we purchased when we bought this building with land about 7 years ago. We knocked down what was here before, and it wasn't that obvious that we could get the building permit for such a tall building in such a location because it's so close to the palace. But God has His ways. I met with an Iranian man. He's not Jewish, from Iran, and he said to me, "Kodesh helped you build the second temple, and I will help you build the temple for God in this country." And he's well connected, and with his help, we got building permits for this. I'm gonna go now to one more floor. Here is if you can see our sukkah. If you remember the model, we have two heights of the building. So this is looking from the higher place to the lower one. This is our sukkah that can host, I say 60 Hasidim. It can host about 40 Jews or 60 Hasidim. You know, if you give up your ego and you sit farkvetch, then you can put more people. This is 5th floor. 5th floor has a preschool, which Mashi works very hard to design, and with beautiful results. Basically, it's the foundation is 6 colors, and that appears in the ceiling and in the floor itself. These are the desks for the online school. Children sit here, spending 2 to 6 hours a day. I can turn on the light. And here is actual preschool. You can see it. Usually, every year we have teachers that come from Israel. This year, although we are looking, we haven't yet found. I must say it's a little hard to find because it's less exciting to come to a country that isn't so vibrant. We usually have 2,000 Israeli backpackers throughout the year, and that makes it exciting. Now, without travelers, people aren't so keen to come. Here we have this is a toilet especially for children. And one more, and let me show you the men's mikveh right here with a security knob all the way in the height of the thing. And there you have the mikveh, the shower, all here. Not sure if it's smart to have mikveh as the last thing in the view, but I can say from my end, it has been a pleasure. Although I'm from my phone and didn't see all faces, I'm thanking you for giving me the opportunity second. Or am I?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanking you for giving me the opportunity to be with you, to share our story. Thanks for listening. And most important, take the inspiration that you got from today and channel it to action. Make sure Rabbi Kamenker feels the change in desire for Jewish, for nursing your soul, as you heard about here.
I know. First of all, I have to tell you that even though I learned that even though you walk around in North Jersey and New York City area, and it looks like everyone is so busy, you just have to know it's like a code word. You have to speak very brief. You have about 10 seconds to say what you want to say. You're going to have 2 seconds response, and that's it. But the Jews here are wonderful as well, really, really are. But it was fascinating, really fascinating, inspiring. I know that you think that you have an easy job, easier than us. I'm going to have to disagree with you on this. I'm sorry. You'll forgive me. And I think everyone here is going to you really inspired us. We want to bless you, your wonderful wife, your wonderful children with a lot of success in reaching all of the Jews that are coming to Cambodia, all of the Jews that live in Cambodia, a lot of nachat from your children, and success in everything that you do. And thank you on behalf of all of us. Thank you very much. And to all of us that participated here on Facebook, thank you for participating. Have a good night. And hopefully, like I said, we're going to be able to host you in person very soon. So thank you, everyone. Good night.